The Assassin's Creed Valhalla released a pretty substantial update, title update 1.0.4, which has a lot of fixes and some visual enhancements. First category they have is the content quality performance mode introduction, which for the Xbox Series X, S, and the PS5, they now have a choosing performance and a choosing quality category. Choosing performance allows the game to adapt the resolution and graphics settings to maintain 60 frames per second. Choosing quality enables the game to run at a maximum resolution and graphics setting while maintaining 30 frames per second. You will also have the option to remain using the default values for the Xbox Series X, PS5, and the Xbox Series S. Next category they have is Miscellaneous, which they have added a new background image to the title screen, added various VFX to enhance visuals, added an option to automatically assign unspent skill points. This option is available from the center of the skill tree. Very nice for late game where you just don't care where you're putting the skill points anymore. Added weapon runes and armor runes as titles to their respective sections. Added a warning when switching from a language that supports TTS to one that does not. Sliders can now be moved with left or right arrows on mouse and keyboard and controllers. Increased fabric limit to 82. Added fabric to traders once the settlement has reached level 6. Very nice when you're grinding out those last few fabrics. Added offering altar requirements to the world map. Not exactly sure at this moment what the requirements are going to be. A little interesting. New category, balancing. Updated gear quality and gear to the correct values. Added assassination damage stats on the character stats page. Thank you. Remove duplicate gear from the inventory. Thank you. Heavy and light attack stats will now adjust correctly based on acquired skill nodes. Heavy attack modifiers will no longer be applied to range attacks. Next category, game improvements, performance, and stability. Improved stability and performance. A little basic. Xbox Series, they now have improved experience on Xbox Series S and X consoles, including screen tearing. PC has addressed a VRAM/RAM leakage issue when alt-tabbing to desktop save games, which is a new category. They have corrected some instances where load game would not display saved games correctly. They have renamed cloud saves to make them more distinguishable from regular saves. Previously, the cloud save was only highlighted with a cloud icon. Now they'll be called, for example, manual save cloud, which is very nice. When you do save to the cloud, you want to know that it's the cloud save. Especially this game has a little issue with deleting save files. I've had it. I know when I posted about it, others said that they've had it as well. So the ability to know that our cloud save is really nice, and it goes a little further because the next thing they note is that they removed cloud saves from the save menu. This will ensure that it cannot be overridden unintentionally, which is nice. But on the downside, their next one is added a notification when a cloud save retrieval has failed. So they're kind of throwing in there that it might still fail. Go figure. Hopefully that does not really occur for anyone. Next category is graphics, audio, and animation. They have addressed various graphical issues across the board, addressed various FX issues, addressed various instances of clipping issues, addressed various visual issues with Evar's Cloak, addressed various instances of player or NPC animation issues, addressed various audio issues, addressed various lighting issues. Shadow resolution on high will now use correct values. New category world, addressed various texture or object placement issues. Addressed some instances where the player could become stuck in specific locations. Thank you, got stuck a couple times. Fish in Norway will now spawn in bad weather. They say, yeah, we had to read this one twice too. Crows will no longer randomly fall from the sky in Asgard. Actually, I did not even notice that, but next category is gameplay, combat, and AI. Address various bow aiming issues. I really hope they did, because in most instances it is terrible when you draw the bow. Improved NPC and boss behavior across the board. NPCs will now react to the player stealing. Addressed an issue where dogs would start levitating where Ivor starts to pet them. Did not notice that. Blocking Springgold's projectiles will now consume stamina as intended. Zealots that were hit with a sleeping dart can now be stunned attacked, which is nice. Zealots will no longer instantly regenerate to full health when the player is considered out of conflict, but still in the Zealot's vicinity, which is nice. Guards who clearly saw Ivar shoot their ally will now turn hostile. This relates to the emergency button skill. Guards will now hear the impact of dead bodies dropping on the ground. Improved guard reactions to whistling. Improved disguise behavior in distrust zones. Shooting bows from the longship now consumes arrows. This means that you can no longer kill Zealots with infinite arrows. Players will now be able to air assassinate sleeping NPCs. Improved fish reeling behavior. Addressed an issue where the horse wouldn't use the gallop animation in combat. The crowd will now cheer during drinking games. I always thought they did, but they've also reworked the sliding mechanic. That is just a completely new note. Not even sure what that one means. New category, quest, world event, and side activities. They have addressed an issue where the assassination sequence wouldn't play for some targets. Addressed various texture issues during cutscenes. Addressed various issues with quests or world events that prevented players from completing them. Thank you. Had a couple of those. Players can no longer use the fishing tool or the horn during the drunk walk with Tadar from the mission You're Drunk, Go Home. Subquests will now display the correct part of the parent quest. Thank you. The memory stream can now be chosen when starting a new game if hold alternative option is set to on. Increased frequency of experienced travelers. New category, user interface /HUD. Addressed various issues with the user interface HUD. Addressed various localization issues. Addressed various mouse and keyboard related input issues. Secrets will now be discovered when synchronizing a viewpoint. This does not apply to Pathfinder difficulty. Nice, I like that it is there, but also does not apply to Pathfinder. Experienced travelers are now highlighted on the world map and on the compass when in proximity. Addressed an issue where the map wouldn't update once players got intel from an experienced traveler. Thank you, never would update. Increased Odin's sight radius and enemies will now be highlighted for longer. Improved radius in which Thenon's, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I forget how to pronounce the bird's name, reveals keys. Reduce Thenon's view distance of materials. Improve the objective beam behavior. Settlement building beams can now be seen using Odin's sight. Improved enemy target lock-on mechanic. Sell all trinkets will now be grayed out after all trinkets were sold. Boss power levels will now be displayed on their health gauge. This does not apply to regular enemies. Regular brightness settings will no longer apply to HDR exposure settings. Thank you, very annoying. The codex will no longer foreshadow or spoil some events. They have a little parentheses for the next two, which is either says ally or A11Y, because it really looks like an A11Y, but for desktop, they have desktop entries and content on Layla's laptop are now narrated when menu narration is on. And colorblind filters are now applied correctly to mini-quest log and raid tutorial. New category, ability and skills. Addressed an issue where players couldn't use any abilities anymore when the Diver Valkyrie's ability was interrupted. Ally NPCs or horses can no longer trigger body traps. Some people just want to see the world burn, huh? That's just their commentary after. NPCs would constantly set off those traps. Next one, they've addressed a display issue where the poisonous powder trap could become invisible after using Senin? I forget how to say the bird's name. Adjusted chain assassination behavior. Players will no longer be able to assassinate a target who was tackled to the ground. A secondary hand slot will no longer be available when a two-handed weapon is equipped using the skill pre-heavy dual-wield skill. Flaming powder traps will now explode when walking over the arrow. New category raids. Force open will now display correctly even if nearby allies are in combat. Thank you. Addressed an issue where allies would never help Ivor to open a door during raids. Oh my gosh, had to quit a couple of raids and redo the whole thing because of that. Allies will now return to the longship once a raid is complete, and they've added a timer until players can restart a raid that was just completed. Did not even know that was a thing that you could restart it, but okay. New category, photo mode. Effect values can now be adjusted with arrow keys or WASD. The no filter option will now work correctly. The territory panel is no longer displayed in photo mode. Changing filters will now work as intended. Addressed an issue where an online service error would occur temporarily while looking at photos on the world map. Well, it occurred a lot more than that, so hopefully they fixed just the random occurrence of it happening in game as well, because it's fairly annoying. But next one, they have the Snow FX will now center to the camera instead of the player in photo mode. And last category we have is system. For the PC, they've updated README files to show correct PC specifications, added additional checkpoints to some boss fights, addressed an issue that led controllers to vibrate constantly. Oh my gosh, had that happen a couple times, so annoying. Next one, they've addressed an issue where players could become stuck in a black screen after closing the menu with start. And lastly, for PC, they've updated the auto detect configuration for NVIDIA GeForce 1650S. So it seems like they've made a lot of fixes and updates after only a few weeks of the game being out. So I am really liking that they're staying on top, and a lot of these issues are issues that I've actually had and the ones most memorable to me during my gameplay. So it seems like they're trying to correct all the major problems in the game, which is nice. See if they're actually fixed correctly. And that is all of their listed changes for today's title update 1.0.4. I hope that helps.